Unmuted. Yep.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular session of council. It is Thursday, May the 15th, 2025, 7 p.m., and I will call this meeting to order. I will look for any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Councilor Armisen.
To you, Mr. Mayor, 12-2, if it's so, it should so happen to arise.
All right, thank you for that. Section 3, review of items not listed on the agenda.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not an addition to the agenda, but this would be in regards to item 12.2A, planning application for 92 Edison Drive. Staff will be pulling this from the agenda tonight as the municipality has received some additional information on this file late. This also means that item number 14H, which is the bylaw associated, will be pulled as well. To note that since this information is already out there in the public and this is something we're taking off of the agenda, should council wish to keep it on the agenda, council can pass a motion for that. So just putting that out there in case there is interest in that.
Could you remind us 14D
That's 14H, and that is bylaw number Z.
and D?
And
What
D.
is D? The OPA?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would, if I may, through you,
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Froese.
I would like to put the motion on the table to put that back on the agenda, please.
All right. Have you got some wording there you can get ready for us there, Megan?
Saying a little.
Who was? Okay. All right. That would include 12.2A, 14D, and 14H, correct?
Yes.
All right, we have a mover on the to reinstate sections 12.2A, 14D, and 14H, which were identified by staff for removal of the agenda. We put back on the agenda. Do we have anyone interested in seconding that motion tonight? Deputy Mayor Weisler. Okay. All in favor of that motion?
I don't know what the motion's about. I never. Emerson Drive. I know, but why was it removed in the first place? Is that going to be discussed?
This would be the appropriate time, I would assume, although I did call the question, did I not?
You did call the question, but I will just briefly comment that it was pulled from the agenda because we did receive at about 3:50 p.m. today correspondence from Long Point Region Conservation Authority regarding some concerns that they had in regards to conformity with the Provincial Policy Statement 2024, specifically Section 5. Yes, they are outside the formal comment period, but since they are a commenting agency with concern, staff pulled it off the agenda to ensure that we were taking that into account. However, since this information has already been put out in the public, hearing this application tonight, council may put it back on the floor that this application be dispensed with at tonight's council meeting. Planning coordinator is also available should there be any specific questions in regards to the discussion she's had with Long Point today.
Can those discussion points come up at that point in the agenda that may contribute towards the decision of council? Would that be appropriate?
Mr. Mayor, I don't see any concerns with that.
All right. Then again, calling the question. All in favor of that motion? All right, I see that as carried. All right. Thank you for the effort, and I appreciate staff for bringing that to us. Let's have that discussion when we get to the item. Section 4, announcements. Does anyone have any announcements for this evening? You go first. Oh, you go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, my announcement was really quick. It was just a reminder that the municipal office is closed on Monday, May the 19th to observe Victoria Day.
All right, my announcement would be simply in light of the weather today, it was fantastic, hot, and it marks the beginning of the tour season in Bayham. And also in Bayham, as you know, we have the paid parking pilot program going on. I realize that there's been a lot of anxiety expressed through various quarters on this particular program. A lot of misinformation, and it's very unfortunate. I would remind everyone that should they not wish to participate in the paid parking, there is free parking available at the Pitt Street parking lot. There has always been parking in the back streets of Vienna, or excuse me, Port Burwell. Well, you can walk from Vienna too if you want. But the point being that we are a friendly and available and accessible community. And I would encourage everyone to accept and move forward with this pilot, and let's see how it works. I'm hoping that we will have a positive experience from it. I would encourage people who are being very negative on the social media site, stop it. You're not doing anything but hurting our merchants and our community. So let's go forward with a positive attitude. That's my announcement. We have no presentations this evening, nor do we have any delegations. What?
Announcement?
You had your chance, Counselor.
No, I didn't.
Yes, I did. I put it out there, but I'll back it up. What would you like to say?
I just wanted to remind everyone of the Writers' Festival this weekend in Port Burwell. I think you'll enjoy it. It sounds like it's going to be very interesting. And on the 31st of May, there will be a speaker from Port Burwell coming to the Edison, Vienna and Area Museum to speak on the lighthouse. So look through Facebook on the BHS page to get your times, and hope to see you there.
Thank you very much for that. You know, I'm just kidding you. There you go. Okay. I'm just making some notes here. All right, we're moving down to section 7, adoption of the minutes of the previous meetings. We have the regular meeting of council held May the 1st, 2025. Those minutes have been circulated, and hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to peruse them. If there are no errors or omissions, I would entertain a mover and seconder for the following: that the minutes from the regular meeting of council held May the 1st, 2025 be approved as presented. We have a mover and seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Weisler. Councillor Chilcott. All in favor? And that is carried. We have no motions or notice of motions this evening, which brings us to section 9, the open forum. This evening, I believe we have Suzanne Schultzhauser wishing to address 12.2D. Is Suzanne there? 12.2A? All right. We'll get the record straight. Yeah, we'll take a minute here as we reintroduce the item. You didn't.
Hello.
Yes, Suzanne, you're there. Good. Just a reminder and welcome to the open forum. You have 2 minutes this evening, as well as a reminder that your comments are somewhat restricted to the recommendations of the published report. So whenever you're ready.
You're going to have to give me a minute because Megan emailed me and said you pulled this from the item. So I now have to pull up what I was going to say, because this all just came last minute.
I realize that.
So I gotta split view you here. So, all right. So I reviewed the information provided in the report for the OPA ZBA for Mr. Emerson's micro distillery and interpretation center. And given that the property is located within the LPRCA regulated area, I was surprised to see that the staff and planner recommended approval of the application, despite the fact that there's no formal correspondence from the LPRCA to support this application. This is important because LPRCA will provide comment on whether the application meets the provincial policy requirements, and that will be subject to a set of conditions to satisfy any of their concerns. So this afternoon, I spoke directly to BAM staff, the planning authority, and the LPRCA to better understand the situation. The planning authority advised me that it's highly unusual to have not have an LPRCA report attached to an OPA ZBA application where the property is located within the regulated area. BAM staff considers the proposed application to be consistent with the provincial policy statement, including the provisions under section 5.2 natural hazards, citing the proposed development is located within the existing building located outside the LPRCA regulated area and floodplain. The LPRCA confirmed that they have not provided comment on this application as they are still awaiting for additional information. They also cited concerns under section 523C of the provincial planning statement policy, which states that development and site alteration shall not be permitted within areas that would be rendered inaccessible to people with vehicles during times of flooding hazards unless it has been demonstrated that the site has safe access appropriate for the nature of the development and the natural hazard. LPRCA has not made this determination. In review of the Arcadis planning memo dated May 7th, which provides the details and rationale for the recommendation for council to adopt the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, I note the municipal planners also do not make a determination on this particular matter. They only cite the building is outside the regulated area, but fail to disclose egress through a floodplain. The proposed site-specific tourist commercial zone
Van.
well, no, you're going to let me finish, please.
No, I'm not.
No,
You've
because
had
you
your 2
told,
minutes.
I didn't have an opportunity to go.
You've had your time. Thank you. Love to get this to stop. All right. Apologize for that. Okay, moving on with section 11, physical services and emergency services. 11.2, reports to council. We have report PS 0625 by Ed Rollison, manager of capital projects, water wastewater regarding Richmond community drinking water system capacity. I note that Mr. Rollison's not present this evening, but Thomas, you're going to pinch hit on that one.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, Mr. Rollison was called away on a matter, so he can't be here tonight. He sends his regrets. So this is a report that follows PS 0125. That was the 2024 annual drinking water compliance summary reporting for both systems. That report was received by council at the February 20th meeting. Also noted that more information would be provided under separate cover, including costing for options to increase the Richmond system capacity while remaining either under or at the 50 cubic meters a day cap that the MECP has for the system before it, steps up and requires a different level of permitting and operation. So the Richmond water system was designed and engineered in 2013 by Stantec Consulting, and the design provided for the safe supply of delivery of treated groundwater to accommodate the existing community. System is currently licensed and permitted by the MECP to treat 43.2 cubic meters a day per the design. We base the overall capacity before we consider expansion of the system at the 90% threshold. So that's currently 38.8 cubes. The system currently treats 33.3, which means that the difference of 5.5 cubes is approximately 11 new connections. So this is information that council received in the previous staff report. In regards to expansion, once this threshold is met, once the threshold is met, development is effectively capped, and council has two options: either expand the system or continue with the status quo. The status quo option is fairly straightforward insofar as process goes. The municipality would continue to approve one-off development, generally via consent or additional residential units, which are commonplace in Richmond, until the 90% threshold is met. And once met, the municipality will have to formally cease expansion in Richmond, and all development charge monies not spent will be frozen and can remain in surplus reserve as confirmed by Watson and Associates. Council may consider potentially reallocating the surplus of the Bayham water system by updating the current wastewater water DC bylaw to a combined urban area development charge. So instead of having one separate for Richmond and then one separate that combines Vienna and Port Burwell, it would be combined as one system, and therefore those surplus monies would be able to be accessed. In regard to the second option, so system expansion is involved and complex. Consideration of expanding the water capacity would include an updated environmental assessment, associated public consultation, MECP approvals, design engineering inclusive of upgrades and a replacement of various treatment components, as well as associated equipment, storage tanks, additional building space, tendering, construction, and the so forth. Stantec has provided a high-level budget estimate of a shade over $1 million, so 1.04 million plus HST for consideration to complete the capacity upgrades. The upgrades would bring the capacity of the system from the current 43.2 cubes to 50 cubes, which increases 90% threshold to 45 cubes a day and allows for an extra 12 connections over what is currently available in the system. Development charge funds can be used to offset some of the estimated costs. Based upon this, if you're looking at 12 connections at a shade over $1 million, you're approximately, $80,000, $90,000 per connection when we bring in, only a fraction of that for development charges. So staff, based upon the economics of it, believe the cost estimate is prohibitive relative to the overall connection increase in relation to the limited amount of developable lands within the current hamlet boundaries. As council is aware, the 5-year official plan conformity review is not contemplating expansion of the Richmond settlement area at this time. And as the Bayham official plan must conform with Elgin County's official plan, any expansion would have to be supported by requisite background studies with supporting capacity and in conformity with provincial planning documents. So at this time, to wrap that all up, staff are not recommending an expansion of the Richmond water system at this time. Recommendation before council is to receive this information. I am available for whatever questions I may be able to handle, but some of the more complex ones I may have to consult with Mr. Rollison and get back to council on those.
All right, thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions for Thomas at the point? Would seem to me an observation regarding the Richmond system and what you've identified is required to even bring it up to the 50 cubic meters is it's a lot. And of course, once we get beyond 50 cubic meters, we're into water taking permits and such. So anything, it's suggestive or implies that it would have to be some sizable development, which the land currently doesn't exist in Richmond to do. So the stars would have to align, I think, pretty close for any future consideration. So any questions from anybody at this point? I do have one for Marg. Marg, are there 11 available lots in Richmond currently? I know there were a bunch down in Hoover Flats, but I don't think they're going to ever be developed. Yeah. Okay. Thomas, please.
Just a quick follow-up to that comment. And so these connections could be ARUs. They could be, secondary units within a current dwelling as well. So we have to account for those. We've seen a number of those come in recently across the municipality. They're becoming more popular.
All right. Well, thank you for the clarification on that. All right. Stay tuned. Should something approach us, then we'll have to deal with that, or some future council will. All right. Thank you. Thanks for that report. Any further questions from anyone? Mr. Pro still with us?
I'm here. I'm out and about. I'm listening.
Okay, I'm glad to hear you. All right, if there are no further questions, then we have a motion before us that reads a report DS or PS 0625 regarding the Richmond Community Drinking Water System capacity be received for information. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? I see Councillor Emerson and Deputy Mayor Weiser. All in favor for that? And that is carried. Councillor Fro, since we don't see you, if you object, just simply sing out at that point. Otherwise, we'll assume you acquiesce.
I will do. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Moving on to section 12, Development Services, Sustainability and Conservation, 12.1 Correspondence, and 12.1.1 to receive for information. We have 5 notices. Notice of public meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0225 Van Ittersum. B, notice of application regarding proposed draft plan of subdivision Zelinka Priama, excuse me, Limited. C, notice of passing regarding zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0725 Bandman. D, notice of passing regarding zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0825 North Urban Homes Limited. And notice E, notice of passing regarding zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 1125 Beard. Any questions from anyone? Okay. Then a motion would be that items 12.1.1A through E be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Emerson will move. Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? And that is carried. Brings us down to section 13, finance and administration, 13. Excuse me, we have to back up. Somebody gave me a renumbered agenda. 12.2A. DS 2525. By Marg Underhill, Deputy Clerk Planning Coordinator, regarding official plan amendment OPA 0424 at 1498855 Ontario Inc. at 92 Edison Drive. And it deals with the draft official plan amendment number 39 and draft zoning bylaw number Z807 2025. Marg, thank you for the command performance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Through you to Council, the report before you is for OPA 0424 and consideration of ZBA draft zoning bylaw Z807-2025. The appointed agent Paul Hind of Strict Baldinelli Monez Limited has submitted an OPA and zoning bylaw amendment application on behalf of owner 1498855 Ontario Inc. They're proposing a site-specific official plan amendment and zoning amendment on lands known as 92 Edison Drive. The purpose of the official plan amendment and zoning is to permit the proposed micro distillery use with an ancillary interpretation and information center on private services within an existing building on the subject property. Through the OPA amendment, the southwestern portion of the property will be redesignated from open space and hazard land to commercial designation. Through the zoning bylaw amendment, only the southwestern portion of the subject property will be rezoned from the current holding village residential 1 R1H2 zone to a site-specific tourist commercial C3-2 zone, limiting the proposed use to a maximum floor area of 450 square meters. Again, the effect of the OPA and the ZBA is to permit the proposed micro distillery use with the Ancillary Interpretation Information Center. Joint public meeting for the OPA and ZBA was held on December the 19th. There were 2 persons attending, Agent Paul Hind and the applicant Tim Emerson, and 1 virtual attendee, Wendy Carmichael. And there were no written public submissions at that time. The attached official plan and zoning amendment applications are attached for reference, as well as the municipal planner's memorandum dated May 7th, providing the details and rationale for the recommendation to adopt OPA number 39 and zoning bylaw Z807-2025. Should council adopt the OPA, it will then be forwarded to the approval authority, the County of Elgin, for consideration. As referenced in the draft, the bylaw will come into force, the zoning bylaw will come into force when the official plan amendment number 39 comes into effect, pursuant to section 24(2) of the Planning Act. Once the OPA and ZBA are final, the next step will be for the landowner to submit a site plan application and enter into an agreement with the municipality for the commercial development of the subject lands. So the OPA 39 and the zoning bylaw are included with the report for your council's consideration. Further to the report, as council is aware, or was made aware, I was contacted today at 3:50 in the afternoon by the LPRCA. They expressed that they do have concerns with the proposal. They wish to have more time to review and provide formal comment. To clarify, they were circulated the applications. They did not provide a formal comment, but they do wish to do that at this time. So they are asking that consideration be made for those comments to come in. The applicant and the agent were notified not long after that, after my conversation by phone with the LPRCA. And as you know, staff made the recommendation to pull the report from the agenda, and council decided to, as I am doing right now, present the report. So I will leave it with you at this moment to begin your discussion.
All right, before you leave, and thank you, Marg, for doing this. LPRCA, despite the fact that they wish to make some comment, can they continue and offer those comments through the county process?
I believe that they would,
Okay,
but the most appropriate time is for them to provide them to municipality.
agreed. They did not do so.
Correct.
Okay. as well, I would assume that, and I'm not a planner, I'm asking the question. Could LPRCA concerns be addressed through site plan?
That would be a question for our planners.
Okay,
I'm not able to answer that.
I'm just spitballing here, trying to think of ways to accommodate if LPRCA has concerns that they can
Correct.
be addressed.
Mhm.
Okay. Questions for Marg from anyone? Yes, Councillor Chilcott.
Thank you. This may be basically the same question you've already asked, but if we were to approve the OPA tonight, the change, then it goes forward, can it be revoked
County?
later down the line?
Let me clarify through you, your worship, that council is adopting, not approving.
Right.
We adopt an OPA, and then the adopted OPA is forwarded to the county because they are the approval authority.
So it, regardless of what we do, it's still not finalized.
Correct. It's adopted at the municipal level, has to go through the process at the county for approval.
Thank you.
And the zoning bylaw is contingent upon adoption of the OPA.
Correct. Included in the zoning bylaw is a clause that says the OPA has to be in effect.
All right, thank you. Councillor Froese, do you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my concern would be after, if I'm not mistaken, Long Point has had this on their table for almost 5 months or so, give or take, whatever. And like you mentioned earlier, did not comment. So in my opinion, that would mean they didn't have a concern. So I'm just curious, like, what happened the day of the meeting when it's on our agenda. Can anybody answer? Like you missed the boat. I'm sorry. And I just really curious. Generally, they're on the ball.
I can only assume that it simply, it didn't get assigned, it didn't get actioned. It's unfortunate.
That's not, I don't think that's of them. That's
Well,
their main
no.
job, right? That's their main purpose for existing.
One of their purposes, for sure. But again, to speak to what happened, I don't know. We're as much in the dark as you. But I think what I was trying to do was trying to suggest to council, and I haven't heard anyone tell me I was wrong, that if LPRCA concerns can still be addressed further along in the process. We do have a registered planner in the room. Am I correct, sir? Okay, let it be known that Mr. Hines has suggested that LPRCA can still have input further along in the process. Okay, Councillor Chilcott.
Thank you. My thought is that if they didn't get their information in on time, and if it was anyone other than them, they wouldn't be allowed to come here tonight and speak to it. So why can we do that for them?
They're the comment.
They are a commenting agency, but your point is taken. Yes. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I guess, if I may, through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe we should all put 2 and 2 together. Miss Schlotzenheimer, Suzanne, or whatever. I guess her comments would be directed at this. So I don't know. I'll leave it right there.
Well, to be fair, the open mic or the commenting period or 2-minute commenting period was meant to speak specifically to the recommendations of the report because it is a planning matter. Yeah. Okay. And we have a public meeting coming up right shortly. Have we had enough to go around on this one?
I'm good.
Megan's going to read a motion for us.
That report DS 2525 regarding the official plan amendment application OPA 0424 and ZBA 2724 submitted by 1498855 Ontario Inc., courtesy of Timothy Emerson, be received for information. And that pursuant to Planning Act Regulations Bill 73 Smart Growth for Our Communities Act 2015, it be pointed out that at the public participation meeting held December 19th, 2024. Associated with this application, there was one in-person and one virtual presentation and no written public submissions, and that all considerations were taken into account in council's decision passing this resolution, and that council considers the proposed amendment to add a site-specific text section to the official plan to be consistent with the provincial policy statement 2024 and in conformity to the Elgin County official plan and the municipality of Bayham official plan, and that bylaw number 2025-037 being an adopting bylaw for official plan amendment number 39 for the purpose of adding a new site-specific subsection 4.55.11 to the official plan to designate the southwestern portion of the subject property from the open space and hazard lands designation to the commercial designation. It's subsequently zoning bylaw number Z807 2025 to rezone the southwestern portion of the subject property from the current Holding Village Residential 1 R1H2 zone to a site-specific tourist commercial C32 zone, limiting the proposed use to a maximum floor area of 450 meters squared, 4,843.76 square feet in order to permit the proposed microdistillery use with an ancillary interpretation and information center on private services and presented for enactment. And that adopted official plan amendment number 39 be forwarded to the County of Elgin for approval.
All right, having heard the motion, is anyone willing to move and second? Counselor Froze, Counselor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Can't mark up my page. You have to mark up your own. Yep, they'll have to come on. All right, we're going to recess from our regularly scheduled meeting to go into a statutory planning meeting. So I will now call the statutory planning meeting to order to 7:32 p.m. It is Thursday, May the 15th, 2025. This evening, we're dealing with a proposed zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 0225 Van Ittersum. I hope I pronounced that correctly. At 12011 Elliott Road. And I will ask any of the panel for any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none, the purpose of the bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from a state residential, the ER zone, to a site-specific estate residential, an ER-XX zone, to permit the construction of a replacement accessory building on the subject property, which requires relief from the following provision. Section 8.10.2. To permit a cumulative maximum floor area for accessory buildings of 197 square meters, whereas 95 square meters is required. The subject property is known as 12011 Elliott Road, west side and south of Green Line. The effect of this bylaw is to permit a new accessory building that exceeds the maximum floor area requirement for accessory buildings and structures for the storage of personal items. And at this point, I will call for any public participation dealing with this application. Anyone wishing to speak to this, please attend the podium and sign in. Not seeing anyone interested in participating. I don't believe there's any correspondence with the file. Thank you. And there is no other business with this file. Which brings us to the adjournment motion. That zoning bylaw be considered at a future council or meeting of council, and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 0225 is now complete at 7:35 p.m. Mover and seconder, Councillor Chilcott will move, Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Now, we'll return to our regularly scheduled agenda. Left off at section 13, finance and administration, 13.1 correspondence and 1311 to receive for information. We have correspondence from the town of Cobourg regarding the Ontario Works financial assistance rates. Correspondence from the Township of Champlain regarding surveillance and monitoring of heavy vehicles in Ontario. Item C, Township of Otonabee and South Monaghan regarding the proposal to end daylight savings time in Ontario. Item D, Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, their financial statements. E, Long Point Region Conservation Authority regarding the April 2nd, 2025 hearing board meeting minutes. Item F, Long Point Region Conservation Authority regarding April the 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes. G, the County of Elgin regarding the 2025 Warden's Charity Golf Tournament. Does anyone have any questions or wish to draw attention to any pieces of this correspondence? I was going to look up the one here. There we go. Of course, it's too big to see it all. All right, I would again, for those of you who are not interested in traveling to Port Dover on Friday, June the 13th, and would rather go to the Bluffs and play golf with the warden and support his charity for hospice, I'm sure that you would be more than welcome. They usually are a lot of fun, these golf tournaments. So if anyone's interested, please take advantage of it and register. That's the only one that I'm going to raise attention to. All right. Then I need a mover and seconder for the following, that items 1311A through G be received for information. Councillor Chilcott will move. Deputy Mayor Weiser, pardon me, will second. All in favor? And that's carried. 13.2, reports to council. We have report TR 1225 by Lauren James, Treasurer, regarding the development charges study, fire, roads, parks, and recreation. Good evening, Mr. James.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Before you is the follow-up report from Byron Tan from Watson Associates. We presented to council on May the 1st on the homogeneous development charge, which encompasses fire services, public works, parks and rec. Two of the main things that come out of that meeting was council received the report as is, and then asked for some follow-up clarification. First one being, how does BAM's DC compare to Malahide? In the body of the discussion, you'll see we're proposed our single detached and semi-house will be 4.1% higher than Malahide. And the non-residential is 21% higher than Malahide. All the other considerations, other apartment, bachelor, special care is below Malahide's. Just so council is aware, several of our area municipalities are currently undergoing DC reviews, so their rates will most likely increase. I don't know the exact percentage, but there will be upward pressure on their DC rates, on their new draft rates. Council, in addition to that, requested a detailed list of the assets included in the calculations for the DC. Those items are identified. If council has any questions on the body, we could do that, or if they want to ask questions on the items identified in the homogeneous DC capital calculation.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Yes, there's a bit of uncertainty in the municipal world at the moment, considering the recent legislation and the proposal to actually have DC rates. So are we to proceed as normal, considering until that legislation comes out, or are we in a pause mode? What's staff interpretation?
So today, Watson's and Associates put out a preliminary assessment of Bill 17, which accompanies the building code, transit, development charges, and the Ministry of Infrastructure Act. And I'm just going to give you kind of the broad highlights because it came out today. As council is aware, the Ontario budget was tabled today. So the proposed exemptions will be for long-term care homes, which BAM currently has none on the books. They've increased the scope and regulations for definition of capital costs. That really doesn't change our homogeneous. They've simplified the process to reduce DC charges. So it would allow a municipality to repel or replace a DC act. It also allows provision to repel indexing or amend if a council decided to do that to help and speed up development. One of the other initiatives that has been discussed was back-ending development charges, your worship and council, meaning that a developer would pay after build, not upfront upon the building permit. Again, a lot of this stuff is still draft legislation and still needs, final assent. Item 4, deferral of DC upon occupancy, as indicated there, that was prior to the bill today. Removal of interest for legislated installments. So right now we can charge interest on DCs that are not paid up front. Generally, we do that at the prescribed drainage rate or the prescribed carrying rate at the CRA sets. There's some language around institutional development. We don't currently have any institutional development on the radar. And it also gives the ability that council could waive a development charge for residential or institutional development. Again, this came out at 4 o'clock today, so it's extremely fresh. I haven't had a chance to sit down with anybody from Watson's and Associate, your worship and council. So there could be some fallout from this. However, I wouldn't pause our DC. If this is something what council wants to have, a synopsis brought back for the 1st of June, we could, or we could leave that as a secondary when Byron comes back to do the next set of public consultation and presentations.
All right. I know you've got a comment, Council or Thomas, but before you do, I'm going to suggest that in the absence of concrete information, we're just speculating here. I'm thinking that it's probably more prudent just to proceed onward, and if we have to make course adjustments along the way, that's how we should proceed. But anyway, Thomas, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We received a technical briefing that was circulated by the county, and we also received the same information package that Lauren was mentioning from Watson and Associates. They've also posted it publicly. So those have been circulated over to Megan. They'll be on the June 5th agenda. And I've got a county CAO meeting coming up, I believe, in about a week and a half. I assume this will be on the table, similar to the way Bill 23 was, because similar to Bill 23, this speaks to a number of different pieces of legislation, including the Planning Act and, as Lauren mentioned, the Development Charges Act. I suspect we're going to have some internal discussion and countywide discussion about impacts to DCs, as this is something that's going to affect all of us. And based on internal discussions may lead to an additional memo coming back from Byron, perhaps, about how this may impact this homogeneous DC. But like you said, this is fresh. This is all up in the air, but staff are on top of it, and we'll have further information.
All right, thank you for that. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Lauren?
The only other thing is Byron did provide a concluding remarks from today. So here's the comments that they left with the trailing report. Based on the proposed changes, municipalities may experience a reduction in overall DC revenue. The impacts of some of the potentially more significant changes, i.e. changes around the definition of capital cost, grouping of credits, defining local services, the methodology for benefit to existing will not be known until the release of the draft regulations for consultation. By moving this legislative guidance to the regulations, as opposed itself in the act, the province will have the ability to change the rules set out therein without the requirement of passing a bill through legislative process. This reduces transparency and the required consultation should the province wish to change these rules in the future. Watson will continue to monitor the situation on the proposed changes and will inform you of potential impacts affecting our municipality. In addition, they'll be submitting further comments to the province via the Environmental Registry of Ontario Board. If you have any further questions, Byron has indicated that they'll be available over the next week to provide additional comments to municipalities like ourselves.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Anyone else?
I'd also remind council that when we implemented the water and wastewater DC a number of years back, there was similar legislation. And at the time, it did a 5-year phase-in restriction. However, it affected the first 3 years of DC collections, but didn't actually impact the aggregate of the DC fund projected.
All right, thank you. Although I'm not quite sure on the math on that one. Because the first 3 years, you were only getting a portion.
We were phased in, but our original projections were much lower than we actually collected.
There you are. We had some better activity.
We did.
All right, thank you for that. Good. Megan, have you captured something for the second part of that motion? Oh, you can. Okay. My take is that staff are recommending we carry on, proceed on course. And I would tend to agree. The second part of the motion was they're looking for direction from council. Okay. Have you got something there?
Staff be directed to proceed with the study. Unless there's further comments to include.
Proceed with moving forward with the development charge rates and the appropriate background study. All right, I can do that. I can do. All right, the motion would read that report TR 1225 regarding development charges study, fire, roads, parks, and recreation be received for information. And that council directs staff to proceed with the development charge rates and appropriate background study for public consultation. Does that got it? We have to clean up my language. Councilor Emerson?
Oh, I thought you were making a motion.
Yep, that's a motion. You willing to move that one?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Councilor Chilcott will second. You have a question on that, Lauren?
Just if council has any questions on the items included in the DC, we probably should do that discussion before we pass the motion through, because that's the time to change it if council has any questions on the DC eligible items in the list in the appendixes.
All right, before I call that question, you've gotten your report. Eligible items would include subclasses to this report. The Stratford Community Center. It's not included in the DCs in the initial draft, but aspects of the project are considered DC eligible. Okay, the cistern, part of the expansion deemed growth related, the old chapel parking lot and accessible walkway. So that's the additions you were recommending?
So the
To the
originally,
fire and
yes.
parks?
Yes, so originally when Byron presented, he didn't give like he gave the full aggregate of each of the departments. This gives council an opportunity to look at every single provision that's set up, as well as if they have questions about what the provisions are set up for, they can ask that question.
All right, so what are we missing, Lauren?
There's a
You're
couple
looking
provisions.
at things that can fund through the DC.
Yeah, I'm just looking for if there's any council engagement on any questions that they're asking about. How does this fit with our 10-year? Or if there's any items that they're questioning or should be in here. This is more for, staff have felt they've captured everything in the development charges calculation, exhaustively looking through the 10-year, as well as looking in the development and the planning and the forecasts, as well as our green space and parks and recs needs, and including items that could be potential, i.e. those items identified of the SCC that relate to growth. So it's just if council has any questions, this is the time, because the next step will be, public process and final calculations in the background study. So I don't want to go back when we go forward. That's all.
Well, as in addition, some of the public may come forward and suggest not on some items, but there also may be additions that they're recommending.
That is correct too.
There is still time.
Yep.
Correct? All
There
right.
is still.
Is there anything, I was going to say though, from council members, is there anything that you can think of at this point that needs to be included? Okay. Thank you though for Lauren. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Now I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Item B, we have report CAO 2525 by Thomas Thayer, CAO, regarding the stop up, close and convey part 1 on plan 11R 11305, part of 4th Street. Before you get into your report, I want to note that you and Mark are running neck and neck for number of reports.
I hope she beats me.
Okay.
So this is a housekeeping item tonight, Mr. Mayor, quick report. So council's previously directed the stop up, close and convey of this. And the way that it was originally planned was that it would go to the trustees of the Stratford Evangelical Mennonite Church, because ultimately they are accumulating land to expand their parking lot. After council passed the motion and the mayor and I executed the last acknowledgement and direction for the transfer to the EMC, we were made aware of a registration issue that dealt with land transfer tax. As the transfers to and from Bayham were for nominal consideration, no land transfer tax applies. However, since the lands are assembled from Serenity Farms Limited, and we understand there may have been a transfer document as part of another transaction that included this part of land subject to it, the way for this to function is that part 1 has to be transferred back to Serenity Farms and then over to the EMC rather than directly from us, because it's tripping up land titles. So strictly from an administrative perspective, Mr. Mayor, we're recommending that we rescind the previous motion and repeal the associated bylaw 2025-023. This would have been the actions and documents supporting the disposition directly to the Stratfordville EMC, and instead new direction to convey the lands back to Serenity Farms so that they can transfer it directly to the EMC themselves. It's a little convoluted, but this is how I understand it to rectify the matter. So the motions before council essentially to repeal and direct the disposition to Serenity Farms Limited, and the bylaws later on in the agenda for council's consideration.
Well, thank you for that, Thomas. 12 months on this one, right?
Yeah, we're going on 10 now, 10, 11.
Out. The back where we started. All right. Well, thanks for the adventure. Any questions for staff on this one? All right, we have a motion that reads the report CAO 1625. It should be 2525, shouldn't it? Should be 25. Yeah. Regarding public comments received, stop up, close and convey of part 1 on plan 11R 11305, part of 4th Street, Stratford will be received for information. And that council acknowledges that there were no.
That's not the right motion.
Thank you. No, it's not.
No, it's not. I have it, Mr. Mayor. I'll read it for you. It would be that report 2525, where you stop up, close and convey part 1 on plan 11R 11305, part of 4th Street, Stratfordville, be received for information. And that council rescinds its previous motion from March 20, 2025 in regards to report CAO 1625 to convey part 1 on plan 11R 11305 to the trustees of the Stratfordville Evangelical Mennonite Church, and that bylaw number 2025-023 be repealed, and that the council of the corporation of the municipality of Bayham directs a stop up, close and conveyance of part 1 on plan 11R 11305 to Serenity Farms Limited, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration.
All right, thank you for that. Councilor Emerson, you'll move that? All right, Deputy Mayor Weiser, you'll second? All in favor? We are carried. Thank you for that. We've got time to probably go through the bylaws. Can you help us out on that?
Through your worship, I can, your worship, but we should skip over the bylaws because of the drainage one that will be after the 8 o'clock meeting.
Well, then I think we've just found a 6-minute coffee break. We will recess.
And Megan, I don't know if you can hear me, but
Dan, I can. We are still live streaming.
that's okay. I'm gonna need to leave my computer and I'll log on with my phone, I guess. Hopefully it'll work.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back. We are recessing from our regular scheduled agenda, going to a court of revision. And I will call this meeting to order at 8 p.m. I'll remind members of any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. I don't see any. This evening, we're dealing with the County Road 43 Drain Notice Court of Revision. You want me to read this off, Steve, or I can do it?
I can go from there.
All right, there you are.
Thank you,
Take it
Mr.
away,
Chair.
Travis.
Good evening, members of the court. As you're aware, pursuant to Section 41 of the Drainage Act, tonight's meeting is to provide opportunity for any person or body entitled to receive notice to appeal their assessment, as per Engineer Report 224307, in regards to the petition signed by Del Walcarius of Elgar Farms, which was filed August 27th, 2024. As you recall, the location of this is Richmond Road, south of Colton Line, on the east side of the road. It's for a 2-lot severance, and part of the conditions would be for legal outlet and for drainage for the property. Council appointed Spreets Engineering on September 5th, 2024, which the report was filed with the municipal clerk on April 3rd of 2025. After considering the report on April 17th, if you recall, that was the design stage of the report. The first and second reading of the bylaw 2025-028 were given. Notices of the court of revision were sent out April 22nd, 2025. Tonight's meeting is to hear all that wish to appeal their assessments, which must have been sent to the municipal clerk 10 days prior to the meeting. And staff did not receive any omissions of this. If the court wishes to if the court wishes to hear any appeals tonight, the court may, by resolution, agree to hear the appeals not filed within 10 days prior. All decisions made tonight can also be appealed 21 days to OMAFRA's appeal tribunal within the 21 days of the court's decision. The decisions made tonight by the court are only on the schedule of the assessment before you, and if any changes are made to the assessment to the property owners affected, must be in attendance if the court must adjourn. If not, the court must adjourn to give time for the municipal clerk to send notice to allow all landowners to appeal their assessments. Before you is myself and the engineer, John Spreet. We're both here for any questions. Again, it's a pretty straightforward one. The landowner would like to move ahead with the development of these 2 lots and complete the severance. So any questions, we're here to help.
All right, well, thank you very much for that, Steve. Certainly appreciate it, and would note that it's only Elgar Farms that's being assessed, isn't it?
That's correct.
All right. Sticking to the agenda, I'm going to invite anyone from the public who wishes to participate in this court of revision to do so. And I see no one jumping to the podium. Does anyone from council, I'm going to ask if you have any questions for either the engineer or for Steve at this point. All right. Pretty quick meeting for you, John. Glad you joined us.
Short and sweet. Thank you, Your Worship.
There we go. All right, we have a disposition resolution that reads that report DR 0625 regarding the County Road 43 Drain Elgar Extension Court of Revision be received for information, and that the Court of Revision acknowledge that no appeals have been received with respect to the County Road 43 Drain Elgar Extension assessments outlined in Engineers Report number 224307, and that Engineer Report 224307 dated March the 28th, 2025 for the County Road 43 Elgar Extension be adopted as presented, and that corresponding bylaw number 2025-02428, be presented to council for a third and final reading. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Weisler, Councillor Chilcott, all in favor? Carried. Brings us to the adjournment that the Court of Revision for the Shall we change that? The County Road 43 Drain Algar Extension be adjourned at 8:05 PM. Deputy Mayor Weiser will move. Councillor Emerson will second. All in favor? We are carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which brings us to the bylaws. When as we resume our regular agenda, section 14. Megan, you've got these summarized for us. Would you like to take us through them?
We have bylaw number 2025-028, a provisional bylaw to provide for drainage works in the municipality of Bayham in the county of Elgin, known as County Road 43 Drain, the third reading. Bylaw number 2025-035, being a bylaw to adopt the capital estimates for the year 2025. Bylaw number 2025-036, being a bylaw to establish a levy for the year 2025 to adopt tax rates, provide for penalty and interest and default of payment and the collection thereof. Bylaw number 2025-037, being a bylaw to adopt official plan amendment number 39. Bylaw number 2025-038, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Bayham and Zuling Technologies, Inc. for information technology service management. Bylaw number 2025-039, being a bylaw to stop up, close, and convey part of 4th Street in the municipality of Bayham in the county of Elgin, designated as Part 1 on Registered Plan 11R11305. Bylaw number 2025-040, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2025. Sorry. That should be a different number. 1 second. So 2025-040, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2024-050, being a bylaw to appoint municipal officers and employees for the municipality of Bayham, and bylaw number Z807, 2025, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z456, 2003, as amended. Emerson.
Okay. Yeah, I would participate.
So I have two motions proposed here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor. The way she brought them together, I thought they were all amalgamated. The first bunch, I think she's gonna.
Put two separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
Apologies.
first motion will exclude anything for Counselor Emerson.
I can. Does any member of council have any questions regarding any of the bylaws? All right. You got it?
I got it.
Yeah, yeah. You have a question? Perfect.
I do.
Please.
For item G, I was just, that's where we're gonna appoint, the game wardens or park wardens as bylaw officers.
That's correct. It's specific for parking enforcement, adjacent to the provincial park off of Chatham Street. This is an arrangement that's been in place with the municipality and the provincial park since at least 2017. That's the last piece of documentation I found. So this is,
Just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. This is something that's been in effect. It's not new
No.
for this year because of the parking issues or paid parking. There, got it. That's it. Thank you.
So the motion then,
So the first motion is that bylaw number 2025-028 be given a third and final reading, and that bylaw numbers 2025-035, 2025-036, 2025-038, 2025-039, 2025-040 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Councillor Chilcott, you'll move that? Councillor Emerson, you can second that. Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Thank you. The second part,
That bylaw numbers 2025-037 and Z807, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
all right, on that motion, Councillor Chilcott, you'll move. Deputy Mayor Weisler, you'll second. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. That's carried. Brings us through to section 16, other business. We have the draft minutes of the April 28th, 2025 Waterfront Advisory Committee meeting, the draft minutes of the April 29th, 2025 Joint Cemetery Board meeting, and the draft minutes of the April 30th, 2025 Museum Advisory Committee meeting. Does anyone have any questions regarding the minutes? Then the motion would read that the draft minutes of the April 28th, 2025 Waterfront Advisory Committee meeting, the April 29th, 2025 Joint Cemetery Board meeting, and the April 30th, 2025 Museum Advisory Committee meeting be received for information. Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Weisner, Councilor Emerson. All in favor? That's carried. Item D, recommendations of council from the Waterfront Advisory Committee.
Yes,
Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take this one. So we had a delegation at our April 28th meeting from Bruce Boland regarding a photography contest that the Otter Valley Naturalist has been discussing with a couple members of the Waterfront Advisory Committee as sort of a partnership. We're looking to roll this out as one of our educational events for, Blue Flag status for 2025. And the Waterfront Advisory Committee is recommending to council that council allocates $225 from the advertising line of the tourism budget towards a photography contest. Based upon previous year actuals, there's definitely money available there. Staff are recommending that council moves forward with this, and available for questions.
Thank you for that report. And anyone have any questions?
No, agree, Mr. Mayor. I think it's actually a really nice idea. That would be maybe top her up to 250 if you ask me.
Hate to give them more than they asked for, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, I think what it's doing is it's matching what the naturalists put out for a prize. I think that's my understanding.
Yes, it would be to supplement prize money.
But that is entirely possible if you'd like to put a motion on the floor accordingly.
I would put that motion on the floor.
All right, so then,
I like round numbers.
okay. 250. All right, the motion then being proposed is that the recommendation from the April 28th, 2025 Waterfront Advisory Committee meeting be received for information, and that staff be directed to allocate $250 from the advertising line of the tourism budget towards the photography contest. Mover and seconder, Councilor Emerson, Councilor Chilcott. Any comments? Concerns? All in favor? That's carried. Recommendations to council from the Joint Cemetery Board?
Through you, your worship, the Joint Cemetery Board meeting that was on April 29th, there was one motion that included a recommendation. So a couple, or maybe not the last meeting, but the meeting before that, conversations began with the Joint Cemetery Board talking about different ways that funeral homes would advertise to get donations for certain cemeteries, that sort of thing. It flowed into talking about, well, can we put something on our own website to allow for cemetery donations directly through us instead of going through somebody else? So that's what they recommended to put forward, to have staff be directed to do something along those lines. For your information, I would recommend, if that is something that you're interested in, to direct staff to investigate how to do that and bring something back, because it potentially could be a full mechanism of a payment method on the website, or it could just be a posting of contact us if you'd wish. So I think if it is something that you're interested in, we could look into what those options look like.
All right, well, thank you for that, Megan. I think it's a pretty good idea personally. In the past, during decoration days at the cemeteries, you'd always had the bowl out or someone manning the tent or something. And it used to be a fairly good revenue generator for cemeteries. My experience, of course, is with St. Luke's, which is not municipally owned, but they did this with the municipal cemeteries as well. Those days just, they don't happen. And these things aren't a free service. And interest rates aren't high enough to generate the kind of revenue reserve or return on investments to help carry the cost of these things. So anything that we can do to help encourage or perhaps find a revenue source for some of these struggling institutions, I think we could. And I think this is a low cost option to pursue. And all we're asking is staff to look into it, see if they can do it. Okay. Any questions, comments? All right. We have a motion then that reads that recommendation from the April 29th, 2025 Joint Cemetery Board be received for information and that staff be directed to investigate options for providing an online payment method on the corporate website for accepting donations for Bayham cemeteries. Mover and seconder, Councillor Chilcott and Deputy Mayor Weisler, all in favor? Carried. All right, brings us to the confirming bylaw. Need a mover and seconder that the confirming bylaw number 2025-041 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Councillor Chilcott, Deputy Mayor Weisler, all in favor. Which brings us to the adjournment motion that council meeting be adjourned at 8:16 p.m. Councillor Emerson will move, Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? And we're carried. We are adjourned. Thank you. Yes, Dan wasn't here, but thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time.